And the more you do it, and the more you back it with becoming, with that mindset of stepping into this version of you that you want to be, the more your percentage of habits will start to fall in line with becoming that version of you. You will start to make more decisions as that version of you. You will have other habits that just naturally happen as you are being that version of you. Welcome to Breakthrough Mode, the podcast where we intentionally get into the driver's seat of our lives, shift out of monotony and mediocrity, and step on the gas towards becoming the person we were always meant to become. Hello, and welcome to episode 204 on the Breakthrough Mode podcast. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me today and pushing play on today's episode. Today, we are chatting about the third pillar of becoming. And if you have been in my work for any length of time, you probably saw this one coming. We are chatting about habits and really the power that habits have to make massive changes in your life over the long run. We're going to talk about habits two ways. And of course, I am going to link it into our ongoing metaphor about being on the road, on the journey of life. You know, we're in the car all the time, always becoming, and habits play a role on this road trip. So we will chat about that. First of all, I want to take all of the drama out of habits because we can harp on habits and it can feel really heavy. And most of the time we think about all of our bad habits, all of the, reactionary things that we do, or all of the, things that people say we shouldn't do, or habits we've tried to break or whatever. We usually focus on the negative of habits rather than focusing on the good habits that we have, because even though we all have bad habits, we all also have good habits that are doing us massive favors all of the time, but we don't notice because those parts of our lives go pretty well and go pretty smooth. We notice the bad habits because that's where the rough patches are. That's where we get frustrated. That's where things aren't going the way we want them to. So to take all the drama out of habits, a habit is simply a decision you keep making over and over again on repeat, often without even thinking about it. So sometimes we have habits and we know we're about to engage in that habit and we see it coming and we do it consciously anyway. So that's a habit that we're just kind of flowing with it. We know we're doing it. We just kind of go with it anyway. But then there are the habits that we don't even realize we've done it until after the fact. And we're just like, oh, I did that again. I can't even believe it. So a habit is simply a decision that you keep making over and over again on repeat, often without even thinking about it. I feel like that takes the drama out of it, because if it's a decision that you make, if we just, talk about that very first portion, it's a decision that you make. And when you make a decision and you don't like it, you can make a different decision and you can make a different choice. The hard part is when we do it without thinking about it, or we do it unintentionally, or we do it, and we know we're doing it, but we feel powerless to not do it. We don't have the willpower to fight it or whatever. We just give in because it's easier, because we've got that habit in place and we know the benefit that the habit will give us, even if it's a bad benefit. Like a bad benefit, kind of an oxymoron. Even if in the long run, it's not a real benefit, it's a false benefit. In the short run, we feel some sort of benefit, whether, it's like, a midday soda every day, it gives you that sugar rush and we love how that feels, or, online shopping and we, get really excited for whatever to come to the door, even though we know when it comes, it'll just be another thing to store, or another thing that we don't even really want, or whatever. there's this like false benefit that's built into all these habits because we create habits to support us. That's the whole point of habits. Habits are to help us conserve energy. They are to help us manage decision fatigue, and they are to give us some shortcuts as we go throughout life because life has a lot already, and so our habits are there to help make things easier. But they don't always make things easier in the long run. Sometimes they just make things easier in the short run. And when we have habits that make things easier in the long run, these are things that people generally call good habits because they serve you over a long period of time rather than just serving you for an afternoon or whatever it is. Because the habit is there to serve you and support you. So you're getting some sort of benefit from your habit, from this decision that you make over and over again on repeat, whether that benefit is for just this afternoon or whether it's a benefit for years to come. Okay. So I feel like that takes all of the drama out of habits. At least for me, it does. When you just look at it as like it's just a decision and you don't have to make that decision anymore. But because it's on repeat, because we often don't think about it, we get in these ruts. And the habit is easier to choose than making a new decision sometimes, especially when we already have decision fatigue or we're low on willpower or it's just been a crappy day already. Then it's really hard to resist the habit because it's already there, it's already ingrained. Your body, your emotions, they already know what to do. Okay. So here on this first part, I guess that was kind of the first part, maybe the second part. Okay. Our habits determine our trajectory. So if you make the same choices about your food today, whatever you eat, every single day for the rest of your life, if you make the same exact choices every single day, that will show you your trajectory. Either you are on track to like have a really healthy, fueled body that's full of nutritious goodness, or you're on track for having some health problems and having some weight gain or lots of weight gain or whatever it is. The habits that you have will show you your trajectory. And if you don't like your trajectory, again, your habits are just decisions. And you can change your habits to change your trajectory. But if you look at each habit as like, if I made this choice every single day forever, I can predict out what that looks like. And that future isn't set in stone. Absolutely not, because you always have the power to change the decision to engage in that habit or to not engage in that habit, which will then change your trajectory and change that predicted future. So you don't just have physical habits, you have emotional habits, and you have mental habits. When we talk about something happening and we were triggered, this is such an appropriate term because when, if you dive into like the books on habits, the authors always talk about these triggers, these things that happen in your environment that trigger you to engage in the habit. It tells your brain, oh, this is when we start our habit. This is where the cycle starts. This trigger means we follow this path. So when we're out in the world and we get quote unquote triggered mentally or emotionally, that triggered a habit. It started a habit. It started a cycle. And, maybe that's like somebody cuts you off on the freeway and now all of a sudden you're furious and now like you're mad about everything. You're not just mad about the traffic. You're mad about everything. You're mad, that now you're running late or somebody's calling you. You don't want to talk to them and, you're mad about everything. And all of a sudden, this one thing, somebody cutting you off, triggered all of these emotions, and now you're in this state. Again, even though it's a little bit harder to parcel out, being angry about getting cut off is still a decision that we make. And it's more of a knee-jerk reaction sometimes, especially if we just have road rage naturally, but it's still a decision. All of the feelings that you feel are things that you decide to feel. Maybe not initially, it might come on fast and you're just like, wow, I just feel this way. But it is a decision to continue feeling that way. And the more you try to curb your road rage, the more you breathe through it and choose differently, being like, okay, this guy cut me off, but maybe you start telling yourself a story every time that happens. You're like, well, he's on his way to the hospital. He just found out, is whatever. You can make up some story that just helps you feel better. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, but if it helps you feel better, then you're getting a great benefit from it, because the point isn't even about the truth. Maybe the guy didn't even see you. It wasn't even about you, and they're just oblivious and ignorant and they have no clue what just happened. But you get to choose how you feel. So if you just tell yourself some story about this guy that cut you off, you can help yourself feel better, which helps you, because even when you are upset about it, it doesn't change anything for that other driver. That other driver is still going to go on with their day, regardless of how you're feeling. So you might as well do everything you can to feel better. And then we get in these thought habits. These are like spiral thinking. When something bad happens or something, we we feel not good enough, or somebody says we're not good enough, or whatever it is. And then we're like, well, if I suck at this, then I must suck at this, and I must suck at this. And all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm just a big heaping pile of suck fest and all of this, right? Like you can go down these spiral thoughts. And again, the spiral thinking are just habitual thoughts. They're thoughts that you've thought them one after the other over and over and over again, often without thinking about it. So you can also change your thoughts. You can stop that at any time. You can be like, whoa, okay, this one thing happened, or this one person said something to me, but that can be in isolation. Like that can be like, well, that sucks and it hurts and I'm just choosing to move on, or whatever it is. These are practices. Obviously, breaking habits is always going to be a practice. Establishing a habit is always going to be a practice. It's always going to be a process. So even as I say these things, I'm not like ignorant to the fact that this is tricky to do. Because it is. This is one of the primary reasons why I carry my journal around with me everywhere, so that when something happens or a thought pops up or I feel a certain way, I can work through it and change my mind and feel a different way and think different thoughts and break these emotional and thought habits, because it takes some real intention and some real work. But if you can change those thoughts and those emotions, you can change your trajectory, right? Sometimes you just change your trajectory for the day. Sometimes you change your trajectory for a week or whatever it is. You're like, well, I chose to not be so mad about this. So now I'm having a better day, and now I'm having a better week, and now I'm having a better month and a better year. And they're just these decisions to feel better, to think better thoughts will add up into a happier life. If you're happier, if you choose to be happier each day, of course, that gives you a trajectory of happiness with pockets of, you know, bad stuff happening or sad things or negative things or whatever. Just because those other things pop up, it doesn't mean the trajectory necessarily changes. If you eat well every single day and have an occasional cupcake once a week, your trajectory of living a pretty healthy life, as far as nutrition goes, stays intact. The trajectory doesn't mean perfection. It means, like, more often than not, this is the direction we're going. So it's not like an all or nothing game. It's not an all or nothing game. Okay. The third part, we are tying this a little bit more firmly into our journey of becoming, being in the car, being on the road, this road trip of becoming, of life. In this metaphor, our habits are a bridge. And if you haven't heard me talk about this before, because I've talked about it a lot, because I really love this analogy, you can use a habit, a very intentional habit, not just any habit, a very intentional daily habit as a bridge to help you cross from who you are now to who you want to become. And here's how it works. When you set this very intentional habit, very intentionally chosen daily habit, this is a habit that the person you want to become already has. When you think about this version of yourself that you would love to be, this version of you already has this habit. And when you install that habit now as your current version of you, every single time you engage in that habit, you are just like the person you want to become, because you know that that version of you would do this thing and you are doing this thing. So in that moment, you are the same. Then it becomes less about the habit itself and more about crossing this bridge from who you have been to who you are becoming. And it starts out with you engaging in the habit, and you cross the bridge and you go visit your future you, this version of you. You go visit them and you say hello, and then you go back on the other side of the bridge back to who you've been, and you continue on with your day. But the more you cross this bridge, which is why I emphasize it needs to be a daily habit, the more you cross this bridge, the longer you stay over there. The more you spend a little bit more of your day as this future version of you. The more you make a little bit more decisions as this future version of you. And over time, the bridge gets shorter and your visits over to this version of you who you want to become get longer until you don't go back across the bridge the other way. You're just that person now. Like, you have just stepped into being that person. And this habit is what gets you there, because it changes your mindset. Because as you engage in it, you're not just engaged, it's not just a habit. It's not even about the habit. The habit is the bridge. It's it's a it's a way for you to become who it is that you want to become, for you to step into being that person, that version of you. So I love that analogy. So as we are, on this road trip, there's a bridge, and we get to cross this bridge every day. And this bridge is there for you to step into who it is that you want to become, to really put yourself in that position. So that's how that habit serves you. And that's one of my very favorite metaphors, because I have lived this metaphor, and the bridge felt really long for me. It felt really long for me, but as soon as I noticed that it started to get shorter and shorter, the faster it got shorter. The more I realized that I could stay on that other side of the bridge as the person that I wanted to become more, the more I started to stay there. And the habit really anchors you into being that person. So here's another thought for you. As you think about your habits, especially uh, especially as you think about this very intentional daily habit. This isn't a random habit. It's not something that somebody's going to tell you you should do. It's not something that, you know, might not even be popular. It might not even make sense to anyone but you, which is just fine. But it's a very intentional habit. As you establish that habit, think about this. So there are all of these studies about habits. And some studies say that up to 40% of our behaviors are habits, and some studies say as much as 90% of our behaviors are about habits, are run on habits. And I would say that probably varies based on the human, and it probably varies based on how much you live your life in cruise control. how much you are just going with the motions, just doing what needs to be done as it needs to be done, not really intentionally making choices, not really intentionally showing up, not really being intentional. I would say that that percentage varies on your level of cruise control in your life. So when you make this bridge habit, your very intentional habit, it's going to start out as just a little piece of, all of your habits, right? And the more you do it and the more you back it with becoming, with that mindset of stepping into this version of you that you want to be, the more your percentage of habits will start to fall in line with becoming that version of you. You will start to make more decisions as that version of you. You will have other habits that just naturally happen as you are being that version of you. And your percentage, whatever your percentage of behaviors run on habits are, your percentage of your habits will start to increase as the habits of that person that you want to become. Does that make sense? So this bridge habit is the first. It's the big domino that once you knock down, the other ones come so much more easy, come so much easier. Once you establish and install this habit, this bridge habit, the other ones just start to happen a little bit more naturally. And so that is super fun. Okay, here are my favorite tips on habits from being a person who has failed over and over again to establish habits. When I have finally succeeded, I've looked back and examined, why did this work this time? Like, I'm so used to not being successful in this that why did this actually work? And here's what I've got for you. Okay, this is my hard-earned wisdom. My hard-earned wisdom. The first, the past does not dictate the future. I failed over and over and over again, and then I tried again, and I was successful. Just because you haven't come through on establishing a habit or breaking a habit before, that doesn't mean that you haven't grown enough, learned enough, are more capable, more disciplined, more whatever you need to be to do it now. Because all along, you've been growing, you've been learning, you've been developing, and maybe now the time is right. And you get to try again. And you get to decide that now is the right time. You get to decide that this time, come hell or high water, you are doing it. The past doesn't necessarily dictate the future. So if you've struggled with habits before, give it another shot. The second is that the way you view habits is going to make a big difference for you. I told you previously that it's not an all or nothing thing, right? Like you can eat healthy and still have a cupcake once a week or whatever your thing is. The thing is that if you look at it like casting votes or putting rocks in a bucket or in buckets, you've got this I want to be this person who has these habits bucket versus I am this person with these habits bucket. You put more of the rocks in the bucket that you want to go in the direction of. More of the votes need to be in favor of the habit that you want rather than the old thing that you are doing. So every time you encounter a situation where you're called to, are you going to do this thing that you really want to do, or are you going to fall back into old routines? Every time you encounter that decision, more often than not, you need to choose the thing that you really want to do. Because it matters. It's not all or nothing. It matters on like the ratio of votes, the ratio of rocks in the bucket, the ratio of tallies, however you want to visually see this or feel it or whatever. You just need to have more votes on one side than the other, and a habit will take over and it will it will be the benefit that you want it to be. Every time you come to that crossroads is important, but it's not make it or break it if you fall back into old patterns or old routines. So do know it's not all or nothing. It's just more on one side than the other. And my favorite, this is my absolute favorite habit hack. Heavens, do not negotiate. When you are establishing a habit, do not negotiate with yourself. Don't. Say, I have decided on this. We are doing this. No negotiations. This is how it is. Absolutely no negotiation. If you start negotiating with yourself, you are screwed. No negotiations. When I started my early morning routine, I decided, I was very clear with myself. I was like, you can hate to get up early. You can hate the cold. You can hate the exercise. You can hate whatever you want. I don't care. You are doing it anyway. That was really the language to myself. Like, it doesn't matter. We are doing this anyway. There was no negotiations. This is what I decided, and this is what I am doing. And so now I don't hate it anymore. I don't wake up in the morning and think I hate this like I used to. But I allowed myself to hate it and still made myself follow through because I'd already decided there weren't any other options. There were no negotiations. This is what I was doing. So do not negotiate. Just don't. And if you give yourself situations like, I'm going to get up early every morning unless I'm sick. Okay, great. That's a great allowance. Like your health over your habits. Sure. I'm not saying don't make allowances. I'm just saying that when you start negotiating, you can always come up with reasons to not follow through. And that's not going to end up helping you. You got to get through the hard part, get through hating it, get through the discomfort, get through all of that. And then you'll be able to thank yourself for sticking with it, for doing the thing, for not negotiating with yourself when you were low on energy or low on willpower or low on whatever you were low on. Because when we make decisions from this place of I'm in charge and this is what I'm doing, we're full of power, right? Like we just decided very powerfully. And when we're a little bit weaker in our discipline or in our willpower or in our energy, or we've had a crappy day, that's when we start to negotiate and make allowances, but we're not making those decisions from the best, highest possible version of ourselves. So allow yourself to make the decision from there. And then when you're not feeling as powerful, as strong, as whatever, don't make decisions from that place. Jake and I have started to say at night, like he'll ask me a question. I'll be in bed, right? Like I'll be laying there ready to go to sleep. He'll ask me a question and I'll look at him and I'm like, it is past the decision-making hour. I don't know what to tell you. I'll get back to you in the morning. I can't decide on this right now. And it can be as dumb as like, what do you want to eat tomorrow for dinner? Or do you want me to take the kids to the bus or whatever it is? Like, it's just like, this is past the decision-making time. I cannot make a decision right now because I just can't. And that has become okay in our relationship, that there's a time that no more decisions are made. And so respect that in yourself. Don't let your decisions follow your highs and lows. Make the decision from a place of power, from a place of energy, from a place of intention, and then don't negotiate. Just don't. Okay, that's what I have for you today. That is our third pillar of becoming. Join me again next Friday for our fourth pillar of becoming on this really fun intro series to the newly rebranded Breakthrough Mode podcast. I am so grateful you are here on this journey with me. I totally love you. Bye for now.